afternoon, everybody. Welcome to lunch. Yay, it's 12 o'clock. I am so happy that we are able to talk about coffee with Cade and infertility in the African American community. So, right now, I want to introduce our guest for today, Mrs. Miesha Suber. So, good morning, Mrs. Suber.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing, Dr. Hammond?
Fantastic. I'm fantastic. So, we're going to get right to our program. So, infertility is a major issue. It affects so many people, as many of you out there probably know. And there is a myth that it does not affect people of color, that somehow African Americans and Latinos are super fertile. And that is not true. That is something that we definitely know that is not true. So the focus of today's show is really what these myths are, how do we address them and overcome them. And so I'm really excited that we have Mrs. Miesha Suber, who's going to share her story and hopefully encourage some families. So without further ado, Miesha, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection with infertility?
Sure. My infertility journey started with a simple visit to, my doctor, my annual PAP, all of that. Um, and I guess I had never put any information down in one place or spoke to anyone. I had no concerns. I was 33, I believe. My husband and I were living in New York. We were having fun, living life. We did have a miscarriage. We found out that that was fairly common. So in no one talks about that part either. That miscarriages are fairly common, especially when you're trying to get pregnant. But we moved on. We said, look, we're going to take a little bit more us time and we'll start our family when we're ready. And my doctor said, well, you looked at infertility? Do you know why you had a miscarriage or anything like that? And we didn't. And that one afternoon sparked a 4-year journey for us. It was pretty difficult because we did start and nothing was happening. We were trying, nothing was happening. We had started originally, we were living in New Jersey with a different doctor and moved back home to Maryland. Maryland is home for us. And we got connected with Shady Grove because we just felt like we weren't too alarmed, but we wanted to just check and make sure that everything was all right. And worked with some wonderful doctors over there and found out that I had unexplained infertility. So it almost was just it was really, really heart-wrenching because I had no diagnosis. I had no reason why I couldn't conceive. Everything was normal. On my husband was normal, I was normal, all of our tests were normal, everything was normal. And so we began to start treatments there. And it was through Shady Grove in which we came upon your organization, which, we had seen the information. I think, they handed out when you first get there and get your orientation. And at the time, we weren't even thinking. We said, "Oh, that's great information. That's great information for someone else," um, because we weren't really in tune to how it really could affect us. We thought, hey, we're gonna start with the IUI, the insemination, and we'll be done. We'll have a kid here starting in a month, and it didn't quite work out for us. So you know, I'd say about a year and a half later, we decided that with our doctor, we decided that we'd have to try IVF. And so that's when we went back to that pamphlet and said, "What is that organization? The Cade Foundation." Um, and It was on a whim. I think we were a couple of days away from the deadline to apply. And, we worked fervently for like 2 or 3 straight days filling out the application. And, we sent it out, and luckily we were connected, and we're a recipient, of a grant. So,
You've given me so much here. I wanna back up just a
okay.
few seconds because there's a lot to unpack there. So first of all, you went to your doctor, and your doctor asked about infertility, or did you ask your doctor about infertility?
She asked me because I was 33. This is not, terribly old, but I hadn't had any children yet, and I did have a miscarriage. And, at the time, we were, we weren't on any type of birth control, and we hadn't been pregnant for a few years. So nothing clicked in my mind, but, in my doctor's mind, she said, you might want to just get checked out, just to make sure that, when you're ready, that you can, start a family.
So right there, just for anyone who's watching who has a question, not getting pregnant after 12 months, if you're not on any kind of prophylaxis and you don't get pregnant within 12 months, you have infertility. It is not a diagnosis that's related to your intention or what happened in your family. It's just no pregnancy within 12 months and not using any contraception. So that's a kind of a time point. You should probably go see someone. So my second point is the grant. So you applied for the Cade grant. I want to do a shameless plug. Application today, but if you are just learning about the family building grant and you hustle really hard, you can still get your grant in today. It's due before midnight, but we have a number of hours between now and midnight. So that's still an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, my third question is, tell me about some of the supports, because you guys are very well educated and you knew about infertility treatment. Were there any fears about infertility? Had you heard any things, maybe in your family or in the community? Had someone told you, well, this is something that you need to be afraid of, or we don't do this, or was it all milk and honey? Oh, this is great. Everybody do it. Go for it.
We, like you said, as educated as we were about our own self and our own experience, we did not know that anyone else was going through the journey. And so we didn't really have anyone to bounce off, to talk about fears or what to expect or anything like that. It was actually pretty interesting. Facebook is amazing. So Facebook, I saw one of my sorority sisters had posted from your gala, and I said, "Wow, they
Sorority. What's sorority?
Zeta Phi Beta."
Okay. Hello to the Zetas.
And she had posted from your gala, and I said, "Wow, I never knew. We never spoke about it. I would have never known. I didn't know her story. I didn't know anything about it, but that kind of sparked a conversation to start there. And ultimately, nothing in my family, still to this day, no one in my family that I know of, that I've spoken to, has experienced infertility. Um, so that we didn't have an out there. We had just started talking, to people, friends or family, because you talk to one person, you learn that they know 3 people or they know 5 people, and it kind of spreads like a tree like that. And so we started to get a little bit of community started. I'd call, they'd call me, we'd kind of talk about our experiences. So I didn't know enough to have fear, just because there were so many success stories. So I figured what this was just going to be our journey, and in the end, we would absolutely have a baby. That's how I felt in the beginning. um,
Right.
Again, it took 4 years total, so faith waned a little bit somewhere there in the middle. But we definitely were excited again once we did get the grant and actually saw that it was feasible for us to move forward, and there weren't, at least the financial barriers were a little bit less than what we would have had to deal with.
So you didn't have any kind of fear of rejection because of the other people that were in your circle that were they had very positive attitudes. Is that what you're saying?
Positive attitudes, positive results, babies born. They definitely kept me in a good mindset. And actually, another sorority sister of mine, she just delivered her second via in vitro, and so and she just said, look, if I can get through it, you can definitely get through it one way or another. It's not only one type of option to bring a child into this world. And so, I mean, I think that helped us a lot to just know no matter what, we're going to have a child through whichever means that is for our family.
So one thing this says to me is get you some good friends. If you're in a community where nobody gets you and you feel very alone and isolated, broaden and widen your community, because there are other people out there who can support you and will support you. And it sounds like you made good use of your village. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, yes. And I do have to admit that we didn't necessarily seek out to talk about it. What happened one day, I think a reporter, I don't know if it was for Essence or Ebony or something like that. They were doing some little stories on couples. We have a business as well, and we were talking about our business. And in that conversation, we got to infertility. I mean, the question, obviously comes up. You guys have a successful business. You've been married for 6 years. What about a family? That's just a question that people ask. And we got on the topic of infertility, and the story that ended up coming out of that she wrote really highlighted our infertility. We were a little uncomfortable with that at first. We didn't even share that story. A friend of ours found it, posted it on Facebook, and 500 people later,
Wow.
it turned out to be one of the best days of our lives, actually, because everyone everyone just gave us so much positive support and feedback and encouragement. So, like I said, we didn't necessarily go to talk about it, but once we kind of got over that hurdle, we haven't stopped talking about it since.
I love it. I love it. So tell me about after you all were at the point where you were, I would say, out of the infertility closet. So now you're talking about it because you see that, there is no boogeyman, that there is support actually waiting for you when you come out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about some of the organizations specifically that provided you and your husband with support.
So after that story came out, one of my husband, John, my husband's coworker, came up to him at work the next day and said, "I saw your story." And he was taken aback because, again, you think in Facebook is your friends, but it has such a large reach. And she said, "I saw your story. I have to tell you about this organization, Fertility for Color Girls." And so he
Wow, you told your husband about this.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he somehow connected us with Dr. Stacy, who runs the organization, and probably
Reverend Stacy, Reverend Dr. Stacy. She's
yes, Reverend Stacy. We spoke with her, and we began the application process for her as well. We ended up receiving a grant from them and as well. And so, this probably was, maybe 2 months prior to that, we were racking our brains. How are we going to do this? We have no idea how we're going to do this. Are we going to empty our 401ks? What are we going to do? And less than 2 months later, we had our answer, and so we got support from Fertility for Color Girls, and as well as the grant from the Cade Foundation, and with that we were at least able to begin our process.
That's outstanding. As what I've heard over the years sometimes is that getting the dollar amount of the award wasn't as important as just knowing that someone believed in you. I've heard that from many grant recipients. Is that something that you experienced, or you felt?
Absolutely, because what it did was, you get perspective once you actually start talking about your infertility, and so you hear the stories of your friends and their family, and for our situation, we felt like, well, we don't have it as bad as other people, so we probably won't receive an award. That's kind of how we were filling out the paperwork. We said, look, we're struggling, but there's so many other people out there that are going through things that are worse than
Yeah.
in our minds. Again, it was worse than what we were experiencing, and so we filled it out not expecting to receive anything, and so it really once we did find out, it kind of made it even more real. It kind of made it like, okay, we can do this, and if it wasn't possible, we wouldn't have received the grant, and it was just knowing that other people saw our story and felt like they wanted to help, or that really did help us along in our journey.
Now, if I recall correctly, faith was a big part of your journey as well. Can you tell me a little bit about that? How your faith impacted your experience overall, just with, it sounds like you've been through so much with the miscarriage and then infertility. So what role did faith play in that? Because what I have seen over the years and knew from my own personal experience was that faith is a very important factor for many communities, particularly the communities that I'm most connected with, which is communities of color. So tell me about your personal experience.
Um, I think if we did not have faith, I don't think that we would have been able to be successful, because not only is mindset, I believe a lot in in mindset. So I could have gone and stayed down in that deep dark hole forever. And I was in that hole. There's nothing wrong with going into the hole. You just got to come out of it. That dark place. So I think that if I didn't have, my parents, both my parents are deacons and deaconesses in the church, and my aunt is a reverend as well. And I think with them pushing me along, talking to me, making sure that I would keep the faith, and and know that God is going to bring us through this. I think that they had to remind us sometimes that
Yeah.
you need to trust, and you need to have faith, and it will happen. They Sometimes you felt like they believed more than you did, um, and so
Did
you
you
needed
have
them.
pray for you?
Yes, 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 yes. So it plays a huge role, and like I said, your mindset. You can be in a dark place, but you've got to believe. You've got to believe.
Mm-hmm. And were there any faith-based organizations that you connected with that provided support um, for your journey?
Not not faith specific. But when we attended the banquet or the I think it was a brunch for our to receive the Fertility for Color Girls award, you just felt that you felt everyone. You felt the faith in the room. You felt, uh, you know, Reverend Stacy, she is a reverend, and so it almost felt like we were going to church, for this particular, topic, and so I'm trying to think. No, not specific, not specific, faith based organization.
Well, one group I want to give a huge acknowledgement to right now is the First Baptist Church of Glenarden. They have a very large and inclusive infertility ministry, so you don't have to be a part of that church to attend those programs. I think that they happen monthly, and they have support for men and women and couples. So, First Baptist Church of Glenarden, Abraham's Promise, an outstanding resource.
Awesome.
So, Miesha, we have been talking for a good while. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with people before we finish up our coffee with Cade? And I really do appreciate you spending time. We got a little surprise, I know, in about 1 minute. But what are your parting words to anybody who's looking at this live stream, either right now or who finds it at midnight tonight, and they're kind of in the middle of their struggle and just feeling like there is no hope? What would you say to them?
I would say that no matter what, no matter what, just believe. You will not have great days every day. You will not. So that you need to know that that's normal, and you need to know that it's okay. I think part of my struggle is I didn't want to appear weak, and so I just would say I'm fine. I'm fine. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. And kind of go into that dark place alone. You've got to know that it's okay to share and talk with people about your journey. And I think that if the sooner you realize and do that, the better off you will be, and the easier your journey will be. Because I think I had about 5 people, five girlfriends now, I'll call them sisters, in the struggle that I could call. Each had a slightly different scenario, but I could call them. They knew if I'm texting them at 2 a.m. and they knew what I was going through. And I was the last of the group, to have a child, and so they stayed with me. They encouraged me. So talk about your journey. Don't go to the dark place and stay there, but know that it's okay if some days are not going to be not going to be all smooth and awesome, but they will be in the end. It will be. Believe.
Believe. Oh, that's a statement and a declaration. I love it. Well, so there was a very positive end to your story, a very happy ending.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about your happy ending?
So my happy ending, let's see here. My happy ending arrived on December 7th.
Oh, he's so cute. I love that baby.
He's sleeping right now, but he's quiet. This is Mason. This is Mason Hamilton Suber, and we've been waiting a long time for him. Our friends and family have been waiting a long time for him, and he's perfect. He is absolutely perfect.
That is beautiful. And are these family names?
They're actually both two family names. So Mason is my grandmother's side of the family, and Hamilton is his as my husband's side of the family. So we just put them together, Mason Hamilton, and then Suber is our last name.
Outstanding. Well, it is so good to see you, Mr. Mason Hamilton Suber. And it's so great to hear your story. Miesha, thank you for being on Coffee with Cade. And before we finish, I want to do a quick reminder. Family Building Grant applications are available right now on our website, www.cadefoundation.org. Up through midnight, so you still have some time. And then one of the things that we always do on Coffee with Cade, we have these Cade coffee cups, and Miesha, yours is in the mail, so you should get it now.
Thank you. Yay.
Always say, what's in your cup? What's in your mug?
What's in my mug is, what I've learned is to make him happy, drink a lot of water.
Okay, outstanding. And I love that mug. That's super cute.
Yes.
And this is our official Coffee with Cade mug. And I've got coffee mixed with hot chocolate in my mug. So,
that sounds amazing.
Yummy for me. Yay. You guys have a great afternoon. Thank you so much, Miesha.